Hey Joshito, how you doing, man? Welcome to the jungle. Different day, apparently same shit. I like your background, man. I see what you're doing with the green screen there. It's going through your hair a little bit, which is kind of cool. It looks like that spray-on hair. You mentioned prolepsis, if I'm saying it correctly. Could you possibly give me another example of that, of something in the future affecting the present or the present affecting the past? But typically, like prolepsis from a quick Google search kind of means more anticipatory. If you're talking with someone, you already know what they're going to say, and you've got what you're going to say ready. Um, or as a figure of speech, it's of saying something like "he was dead before he went in" type thing. It's kind of anticipatory. But I think time is probably quite different to how we view it, especially because our time scale is quite different to everything. Our gut bacteria doesn't live that long, and trees live for hundreds of years sometimes. But from a genetic level, genes can carry on for potentially millions of years. So maybe our perspective of time is pretty warped, and we should probably see it more as a whole bunch of different genes at different time points. This was a tiny little gene that didn't last very long in this, but by far the longest gene, as maybe our little portion of time isn't nearly as significant as we think it is. Maybe our problem is that we feel too attached to it, that we feel like we're the center of our universes. But maybe we're actually, or at least our cognizant minds, is maybe even a second or third actor in something else's story. You mentioned egoic structures and people dying in that. So I typically think that when you're dying, things are kind of shutting off, and your brain's not necessarily getting as much oxygen as it needs. So um, it's trying to keep doing everything it can to keep things going, which is kind of interesting because apparently the last thing to go when you die is actually your hearing. I wonder why your brain places that much emphasis on hearing. That's a cute pic of your daughter, man. That's cool at the same age. That's pretty awesome. There's definitely a recurrent thing. I think with when it comes to gametes, with your sex cells, I think um, normally in every other cell in your body, if I have this correct, every other cell in your body has a blend of roughly half from one parent, half from the other. But it's a mix, and it's a mix of all of the genes that their parents had, and their parents and their parents and their parents. But it's different with gametes. With your sex cells, if I've got this correct, half come from either parent, unscrambled. So that's why sometimes um, traits can skip generations. So your daughter might actually have more intact genes that belong to your mom than you do, which is kind of cool. What if our time scale is actually more about billions of years? But yeah, what if we're actually, in a weird way, that gene, that part of usefulness that lasts, isn't us, but actually our shared, like human rights, money, religions that we pass along to the next generation, or that we have in the back of our mind when we create software. Yeah, what do you think about that?